Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Appreciate everybody being here. We're going to talk today about the Microsoft Build Conference that happened about 2 weeks ago. Apparently not long enough for some people to present and prepare their presentations. Needed some more time for that. But we'll see what we've got today. We appreciate those that were willing to present and who attended the Build Conference. We're going to start with an opening prayer by Rich Huddock, and then we'll explain the agenda for today.
All right. I think I talked about this after last build. In fact, I know I did. After the last build, so I kind of want to talk a little bit about what's changed in the bot framework. No, good point. I was going to get away without doing that. Let me share my desktop. I'm gonna share that monitor. Can you see that now? Hang on, not yet. Give it a second. It's connecting. Oh, all I did is share my desktop.
There we go. Now
Okay.
See it now.
Awesome, thanks. So, I don't know why I'm looking over there. It's right there. Like I said, Build 2016, I gave a presentation. There was like a stock bot, a bot that you can, a text-based bot that you can ask stock quotes. And that was pretty rudimentary. A lot of things have been added to both the bot framework in general and specifically, and cognitive services in general over the last year. And there were quite a few sessions at Build about those subjects. I want to show you really quick So this is the Channel 9 site, and if you go to the Channel 9 site and you have to click on Events and then Microsoft Build 2017 and then Microsoft Build 2017 again, then you'll get this page that I have right here, and then you click on this Filters. You guys can see this, right? Filters, and you can sort everything or select things out that, man, I did not mean to do that. I mean, it probably helps, but no, I just want to zoom back down. Control 0, yeah. That's better. So that's a really good one, but that's not what I'm talking about. You should all go look at that a lot. But I just wanted to show you all the content that was related to bots, bot framework, and Jonathan's going to cover this later, but cognitive services, I kind of lumped those all together, and Cortana too. If you filter by that, there are a ton of presentations. So this is a pretty big emphasis this year, and they've done a lot of work on that. There's like 3 pages of, what is that, 15, 12, yeah, there's a lot. Well, I don't know if the 3rd page is all the way full, but anyway, there's a lot of good content out there. I'd recommend going and looking at that. That's my main call to action. I'll show you a few slides, and then hopefully I'll get some demos in. They're pretty high level, but they should give you kind of what your appetite on what you can do with bots. Hopefully. All right. So, like I said, this space, they call it the Microsoft AI portfolio. It's pretty big and it's growing. They've divided it up like we see on this slide. The part that I'm focusing on is just this little narrow piece called the bot framework, and it's not that narrow, but yeah, there's a lot to it under the services. Jonathan's going to cover cognitive services later, but there's a lot more that's been added and that they're continuing to add. This is a really high volatility, lots of new codes coming out on this all the time. This is just an idea of what some of the improvements they've made over last year. one of the coolest things is they added speech. I don't know if Jonathan's going to, are you going to demo that? Maybe. So they added support for speech into cognitive services. Last year I talked about Lewis, the language user intelligence services, where you can, it's the means by which you can use entities to train your bot to understand all kinds of different queries, and you can give them a score rating, 0 to 100. That 100% is it's absolutely the answer. 0 is like that's not the right answer, basically with the bots. But the point of the slide is there's just a lot that's been going on. They've also added a bunch of new channels. So I think I'll show you this. I built just a kind of a shell bot, so you can go out to the dev.botframework.com site and see how easy it is to hook up a channel. So there's Slack, there's Teams. Teams has a channel, Skype, Kik, all these guys. And then here's a bunch of slides here's a bunch of links that I want you to go look at. And this is recorded, so you can go grab that later. So let me give you some demos really quick. One of the things, I don't know who was here when Dave McKinstry came and demonstrated the Q&A maker. Anybody? So really just Jim and I were here? I thought there were more than that, but the audience may be slightly different. So good, this is all new to you. Yeah, so that piqued my interest a little bit. I've always wanted to take the Cloud Foundry FAQ and stick it out somewhere where it could be useful. I almost did that. What I have here is the idea is you just give it a URL. That's the easiest thing. You point it to a URL that contains your frequently asked questions, and it can kind of consume those and generate or seed a rudimentary bot for you. And then you can chat with that bot and ask it questions, and it'll give you those answers. And you can even train it. I'll demonstrate that a little bit. It's sometimes difficult if we have sites like Integration Point that put the questions in one frame and the answers in a different frame. It couldn't figure that out. So I had to pull all the Q's and all the A's out and shove them into a TSV file, then feed the TSV file to the Q&A maker, which it handled just fine. So it was just a little bit of text manipulation, and it worked. So let me show you what I have. So this is your knowledge base, and here you can go in and you can edit the questions and the answers, and the answer format is just Markdown. So you can put typical Markdown type stuff in there to make them look prettier. I started doing that, and it was kind of tedious, so I quit, but because this is just a demo. But once you've published it, and you can do some cool stuff with it, but you can also test it right here in Q&A Maker. So when someone hits this endpoint, you'll get this chat saying, "Hi, I'm the Cloud Foundry FAQbot. Say hi if you'd like to chat." So it seeds it with a hi, and the answer is hello. Let me see, what's a good one? Some people ask us this. Some guy asked me this yesterday. What is a sample manifest YAML file? We'll see if it figures that out. I haven't asked it that specific question before. And you notice that my Markdown's a little bit wacky because that in Markdown, 3 dashes turns into a solid line. So that solid line that you see at the top there, that's supposed to be 3 dashes. But so I was playing around with that a little bit. But it understood that. Someone throw out another Cloud Foundry question and see if it's in our FAQ. Is that me? And the angels sang at this demo.
What version of
Is that Vivaldi? I think that's Vivaldi, right?
What version of .NET Core?
Okay, I'm pretty sure that one's not in there, but that's a good one. What version of...
Spell stuff. I can.
I can. I don't know if it wants me to.
Put it in there. It'll recognize it. Misspellings and flag down.
So this is a wrong answer. But that's a good question. And so what you do with one of those is you can go in and retrain it and say, either add a new answer, or I can say, talk about that one. No, that one's not great. And talk about services. No, let's make it that answer. And then I can save and retrain and let it know that I can go in and give it an answer to that question. What else can I show you in here? So this is a different site. This is dev.botframework.com. This is where so Q&A Maker is kind of like a wrapper around the bot framework, and it's kind of meant for your knowledge workers, not necessarily developers. This site, dev.botframework.com, is the developer portal, and this is where you can build your bot and hook it up to various different channels. So for me to hook it up to Teams, I just clicked one of these. I could hook it up to Cortana. It's going to ask me a bunch of questions about that, and then I'm going to just not do anything with that. I'll save it, and it'll add it. I can go back later and fiddle around with some of the metadata and configuration around how this channel interacts with my bot. There's a lot of good stuff there. I think I wanted to show you, what else? There's a couple of sites on GitHub where they've put out a bunch of sample bots with all the code that you need to get up and running that are pretty awesome. Let me see if I didn't put those on here, so I'll have to nav in real time. So one of them is this, github.com/Microsoft/botbuilder. This has kind of a link to the documentation. It has samples. If I go over here into we'll do the C# one. There's like a bunch of pre-built bots that you can use to kind of seed your idea and like get it started, and then add the things that you want later and kind of see how things are built. This is the one I demoed last year. And I've shown you Q&A Maker. They've even done some stuff to Bing. And Bing, top bots. So if you just Bing top bots, it'll show you a lot of the publicly published bots and the platforms on which they run. So you can see like all the Facebook bots, the Telegram ones, the Skype ones, that kind of stuff. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to go back to that last slide. These are the sites that I recommend you go hit to get started with building bots.
Thanks.
Okay, so you're going to have to ignore the answers to the questions. Okay. So this presentation's on what's new in C#7. This what I'm using here is called Xamarin Workbooks, which is pretty cool because I can put text in here, and then I can write some code as well. So first thing we're going to talk about is out variables. If I can spell variables. Okay. So you guys are familiar with this pattern, right? You have to declare an int. Oh, there's a bug in here too. I have to create extra space and then I can go back and change it. So you can do if int.try parse. I'm going to parse the string. You guys have seen this before, right? Then console, right line, result, right? So this will complain about a syntax error because I had to work around the bug. Okay, so 123. So we all hate this, hopefully, right? That you have to declare it up here. Now you can just come down here and say inline it, and that should work. So that's pretty cool. Also, you can do bar. So that's new in CSharp 7. Okay. Okay, tuples. Who here has used Swift? Nobody?
It's a .NET engineering.
Okay, tuples.
Needs tuples.
What's that?
Like needs tuples.
In CSharp? Well, in iOS, Swift's a little more native. So now you can do this. That's a tuple. So I think it's just syntactic sugar for what you're already using. So this is helpful, right? If you have a method, you're returning a value, right? And then you decide, oh, I want to return 2 values. And then, let's see. So you want to return 2 values, but you're like, oh, now I'm going to create a class. Well, you can just return a tuple now. So that's pretty cool.
They plan a limit of 8? 8 items in the tuple?
I think so. I'm not totally sure, but I think it was 7 actually. Is it 8?
Well, yeah, you use the last one to add another tuple.
Anyway, so that's pretty useful. Another thing that's kind of cool about this is it could be me.
I don't think it's you.
Okay. If you get some serious feedback, it was me. So another thing you can do, which is kind of cool, is make sure I get this right. By the way, I'm a Java developer, so you can't criticize anything. Hope you didn't see that. So then they call deconstruction, which looks kind of weird to me, but you can say int x, int y equals do something. I think this will work. And then you can say, what is the value of x? 1. So it takes the values and puts them in variables for you. Let's see what else. That's pretty much it. Okay. So pattern matching. I can't read my code. So I'm gonna. This really messes up my presentation that you have to see what I'm doing. So I have some errors in here. Oh, this is not the right code. Anyway, I'll just do this. Is this going to compile? Okay, good. So if you had a list of objects and you were walking through them, yeah, I'm going to have to do something. Might as well just show you over here. It just seems more cool. Okay, so circle's not defined. Let's just define it real quick. This weird bug. Turns out a circle and a square have the same circumference. Okay. So 16 is the circumference. So I'm walking through this array, and I'm checking. This is kind of the key part right here. O is a circle. If it's a circle, do this. Cast it as a circle, and then get the circumference of it. Does that make sense? So that's kind of dumb, right? So what's kind of cooler is now you can declare inline the variable. If it's a circle, C will now be defined, and then you can just do this. In fact, that should work right there. Except I didn't. So it's, I should probably reset the circumference variable from up here, but believe me, it's not magic. Okay, and then the square as well. Just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Okay.
Good code.
It's good code, yeah. It's idempotent. Oh, and then of course you can use it in the switch state. I'll just copy this because it's more dramatic if I do this, right? So you can put it in a switch statement as well. So that's kind of cool. That's pretty concise. No casting. Local functions. In fact, I'll just show you over here. You guys see that? You guys can't see my answers, right? So local functions, you can declare a function inside of another function, which I guess could be useful in certain circumstances. I'm not really sure when you do that. There's a really convoluted example on the web about it. And also down here, you can see this. You can access the variables from the outer function. So this should, I think this works. Oh, what is it doing that for? Okay. Throw expressions. So you weren't allowed to put a throw statement in an expression before, which I guess made for funny code, right? Like you had to check something and then throw. Now if it's null, like here's an example. If the string is null, throw an exception. You couldn't do that before. Now you can. That's kind of cool. And then binary literals. That's what it is. You can see it. And digit separators, that's for readability. It's kind of weird here. You can just put them wherever you want. They're not really, I mean, it's not doing any.
Format validation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it would do anyway. So you can read it, right? You can read this. This is obviously a big number. What number is that? Anyway, 100 billion. And then the other thing I don't have an example of is local or ref returns. And they gave an example of a matrix where instead of returning the indexes into the matrix, you can actually return a reference to the integer in the matrix. So then the client consumer can update that value in the matrix instead of having to expose, I don't know, how to get to the value. So anyway, those are the cool things in CSharp. Pretty cool. That's it. Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, guys, how are you? All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about a session that was about debugging in Visual Studio 27. I got quite a bit, so I'm going to go really fast, talk faster than you can hear me, but try to keep up. First, we're going to talk about command line arguments. If you haven't used command line arguments, they can give you some quick options. First, see in this example, it's we have a little placeholder provide a conference argument. What I can do is go into my project properties, put in a command line argument. So, darn. Switch. All right. Conference Jedi Council. Let's run that. Didn't quite do what I want. Conference instead. All right, let's figure out why. So we will do F11 to step in, start out the project. Okay, notes in this greeting is probably where I'm defining the conference. So we're going to do what's called a step into specific. And I can choose just the get conference. I don't have to step through everything to get there. So here we are, and we'll just step down here a little bit. There's my conference parameter. And I got conference. What are my arguments that I'm looking at? The 1, but the number 2 is the one I really want to put in. So I can make the correction +1. Let's start it over. Here we are, yay, General Counsel. All right, let's talk about, let's see, next statement. So let's go into that again, set a little breakpoint. Let's set it right here. Okay. Of course, I have to restart it, make it work. All right. There's at least 3 ways to go to another statement. So I want to go back to this line. I'm going to do a Control-Shift F10. Get there. I can drag my little yellow arrow out. Or I can use the option menu. And set next statement there. Okay. Then let's do a run to cursor. So 3 ways, or at least 2 ways again here. So you can do a Control F10 to run to cursor. I can do the option menu, cursor. There's also this new kind of cool thing, which is this little arrow here called run to click. So I can click there and run to that breakpoint by using the keyboard. That's kind of cool. Another cool thing, from your CallStack, click out to your CallStack and do the same thing, do your run to cursor that way, right out of your CallStack back. So a quick way to jump back up where you were. All right, let's go on to the next cool thing, load data. Here I've got what we have called debug.isAttached and a debug break. So I can not just set a breakpoint, but I can actually in the code force a break. Maybe I want to clear all my breakpoints out, but not this one. So I can insert that. If you do not wrap your debug break and a debugger is attached, you'll throw exceptions. So that's a good tip to make sure you wrap that.
Just in case it goes into production.
Just in case. Well, yes, that's a good safety tip. Okay, let's look at this data provider. We have all this data, and you're probably used to the little magnifying glass. You can look at that content. Here's a bunch of HTML content. I'd really like to see what that looks like as HTML. So what I can do is use a little drop arrow next to the magnifier and say, show me this as HTML. And there we are. So quick way to get that kind of view. Let's look at another one, JSON. Look at it at plain text, or we'll switch it over to a JSON visualizer, which isn't a hugely helpful view, just a bunch of numbers, but maybe I want to see the app names for each of those. So let's say, show me the app names. And we just the app names. So say, okay, number 6 is the one I want to look at. Then I can just drill into number 6. So good shortcut there. Let's see what I got next. I'll show you the other slide view, but it doesn't seem to like me. All right, another cool thing. It's called a peek view. So let's look at this apps thing here. Another not hugely helpful list of stuff. I click on the type of apps and do an Alt F12. get what's called a peek view. I can go right into where that code is defined. And in here I want to see an attribute about the app info. So I'm going to say debugger view. I'm going to use the control period to give my IntelliSense. Nope, that's not the right one. Debugger display. So close. It's okay, you need system diagnostics. And finish that out. We have IntelliSense. Now I know I want a value from that, but I can't see it. It's behind the little box. I hold down control, box goes transparent. I can see what I've got behind there. I want to see app name. So let's do app name and the value. App name. Okay, should match right there. Got to stop it because the little purple squiggle says you got to stop to debug further. There we go. Did that breakpoint anymore? Put our data. Okay, we hit our breakpoint. Now if I look at apps, I have app names. Actually something useful. Cool. Object IDs. So say I want to keep a watch on, I'd say the first value here. I can take that and choose Make Object ID. If you look in the Locals window, see I now have this $1, which matches that item. I can also look at it in the Immediate window. We aren't used to the Immediate window. Whoops. It's not a good tool. So quick shortcut, there's the object. Say I want to, let's get rid of that guy. Say I want to keep a watch on that guy longer term. So I'll pin him. He's right there. Now, the pin lets him stay with your code. Just track with it. Step forward a little bit. And now I want to see app. What's my current app? I can now add an expression. So I want app. Right now it's 0. Let's step a couple of times. We're app 1. I can do a side-by-side comparison now. Take my baseline and another reference. I can also add comments to that if I need to track my debugging process. Okay. Quick watch. If you haven't used that, it's a quick way to just take a shot of what you got there and get rid of it again. Okay. Next. If a test is failing, I need to figure out why. So I'm going to go to a place in the code where that is referenced. I happen to know that it is, using my control comma shortcut to go find the type. Let's call get apps by type. And in here, I want to set a little breakpoint here after I get the decoded type. Let's run it. Okay, and the decoded type says web. It's not the web one that I'm having trouble with. It's the one called desktop. So what I can do is then set a condition on that breakpoint. And I just want to do it when decoded type is desktop. Okay, we come around, it's desktop. Now, let's get rid of this guy for a moment. Apps returned. Nothing. Okay, so what I can see is that I look at my immediate window, and I want to see, we're looking at data, dot applications, dot select, and I want to see the app type. And I want to see the distinct ones. Okay, mobile, desktop, web. I noticed right away that desktop is capitalized here. That's why we're not matching. So we need to ignore case. So we'll throw in a little string comparison dot ignore case. Go up here, set our next statement. Now how many apps do we have? We have 7. It's okay, you can clap, Jim. Feel free. So now my test is passing.
I used to be a tester.
So you can appreciate some debugging. Cool. All right. Action breakpoint. This one is also cool. In that same place, I don't want to do a condition. I want to do an action. And my action might be that I want to print out this was desktop, not desktop. Okay, now when I run it, I'm looking at my output window. So we've got the little comment down there. You can monitor your variables, the output, or whatever you want to without actually breaking your code. Okay, one more section here. I have a section that's being loaded. It's kind of slow. Feels slow. So I'm going to go to where that's being loaded. And that is my load by type function. We're going to set a breakpoint here. Near the top. Click load. Let's do a little step. See this little time thing at the end of the line? That's the time that the last statement took. So that was less than a millisecond, 576 milliseconds. That's probably important right there. So the intent was to, where is it? Get server certificate async. See it's in there. There's our slow one. We're expecting to cache these guys, but we're going down here instead. And there's my big one, 648. So what we really want to do then is add some caching. Such certificate store. Whoops. Okay. Store. Dot add base URL server cert. Okay, that's adding 3 milliseconds to do that. So up here. No, wait, hold your applause. Let's see if it really worked. Okay, less than 5 milliseconds. That's a little bit better. Okay, and then if we do the load, it's almost immediate now. All right, some stuff that here. Some stuff I didn't cover. I skipped the. You can click on that little milliseconds thing if your diagnostic tools on the right are gone. It'll bring them back. Teletrace events, the little diagnostic tools have a lot of stuff in them that we hardly ever use. At least I hardly ever use. You can use the events tab. You can do historical debugging, etc. exception settings, parallel stacks, parallel watch, freeze and thawing threads, things that are not in 2017 yet, IntelliTrace snapshots, and step back button. So undo, it's kind of cool. And these are resources you can go to from Microsoft to get more details. And that's it. Done. Okay, so at Build they talked a lot about cognitive services, and I think they're really cool, and I wanted to get more done and learn how to do it, but I ran out of time. So you're going to get like the quick 5-minute demo on the basics of cognitive services. So in the keynote, one of the really cool things that they did was show how they used cognitive services to create something that was really neat but kind of creepy. So I'm going to play a quick video and then we're going to talk about it.
Let's take a look at how you can digitize real-world environments like what we just saw in the video. As Satya said, today we're going to show you a solution that we've built using Microsoft Azure Stack, Azure Functions, cognitive services, and commodity cameras that make this a reality.
In a highly controlled environment like a construction site, being able to track equipment, people, and what they're doing is critical to workplace safety. So the first thing I want to show you is over to your right, where we have a construction yard, and you're going to see Yana is working. Using our technology right now, both people and object recognition models are currently deployed in that construction yard. And then on the screen there before you, you can see the solution is recognizing Yana in real time, as well as equipment like the green jackhammer on the floor there. Now, over next door to your left is a workshop space, which is where Ayuba is working. And right now, with our technology, only people recognition is deployed in that space. So we're going to start by searching for an object using this phone. Let's say I want to find a jackhammer. I'm going to type, where is a jackhammer? If I could spell it, I will type it. There we go. Now you can see, even though there is actually a jackhammer resting against the bench in Ayuba's workshop, the system doesn't see it, but it does find the one next door, which again is where we have both people and object recognition deployed. The system is going to let me do things like find who's trained to use that jackhammer and also who last used it. And so that means I can actually use this technology to ensure my project is meeting health and safety regulations. And so in order to do that, I'm going to deploy an object recognition model in the workshop. But before I do, take note again of that jackhammer in Ayuba's workshop. It is resting vertically against the bench, which is actually a very unsafe position for such a large, heavy object to be in. And so I've already gone ahead and I've tagged that jackhammer in a variety of safe and unsafe positions in the system. And so when I update this pipeline, which I'm going to do right now, it's not only going to see the jackhammer now, but it is also going to tell me it's in an unstable orientation, and it's going to notify Ayuba, so he's able to very quickly resolve the issue. The solution is running more than 27 million recognitions per second across people, objects, and activities, both in the yard and in the workshop. And we're making changes to the solution in real time in the cloud and deploying it to the edge, which is a
So when I saw this, like, it kind of freaked me out because, like, I don't really monitor all the time by like some system, but then I realized, that's kind of cool. I want to write something that does that. So I started looking into it. I didn't have time though.
How much you posted on Twitter right when that was going on?
There goes our freedom. And a whole bunch of other really like nasty, upset things. Yeah.
So there's a little bit of smoke and mirrors going on, right? When you asked what a jackhammer said, didn't it say it was leaning against the bench? Which was the case in the room that it hadn't yet scanned? No, it hasn't done that yet. But when she asked, where's the jackhammer, what was the reply? Oh, construction yard.
Construction yard is the first time. It's construction yard.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought the text reply said it was leaning against the bench. No, it said it was in construction yard.
It's a construction yard the first time. So,
You can follow the URL and watch it yourself.
I might.
yeah, it's a cool presentation. So, Build, there were a lot of sessions on cognitive services. Like these are the ones. There's like 15 of them, and there's a second page. But if you guys are interested in it, definitely go check those out. But this is the page where you can start learning about cognitive services. And they've done a really great job of this. So like, basically you can even try it yourself here on the page. So if you just, like, for example, you can click browse. And they also have these examples that you can click on. Like, we can click on one of their examples. And then it will analyze that image in real time and tell you what it detected. So it tells you where the face is, different, expressions on his face. And there's another one. I guess it must be another page, but it'll say the gender, and it will say, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so when I saw them in smoke and mirrors and everything, they had to upload a whole bunch of pictures in order to get the thing trained to
Yes.
figure out who they are.
Yeah, you have to train your model so that it understands the different objects and the people. And that's what I wanted to do. So, like I was going to show all this. There are a ton of these cognitive services. Like, there's all these vision ones, all these speech ones, all these language recognition ones, and then a whole bunch of other ones that I haven't even looked at. But like, I think where it becomes interesting, it isn't where you use these one at a time. It's where you start combining these cognitive services to give you this illusion of intelligence. So like in their demo, they combine like 5 or 6 different services. Like, I just think it'd be super cool to be able to do that. Like, combine, face recognition with the motion detection, maybe have a bot, and then the bot can talk to you with, you have a 3D model talking to you, seeing you, and reacting to your emotion. And I mean, that'd be super cool. That's what I wanted to do for this, but I didn't have time. So you get a slimmed down version. So
Next month.
yeah, next month maybe I'll do that. So so when it's not just faces and people they can recognize. You can say he's male and 36, but it's also places. So you can we'll go ahead and do this one. Say submit. I might have already done it when I did that. I clicked it. But it will tell you everything about the photo, everything it finds. So it's just saying it's outdoor, it's a city, there's a building. It can analyze any sort of image. Like if we do next one. So any images you can have, it can tell you everything that's in the image. It's really neat. So you can read text and images. So this is just OCR, but it does a great job even on even on this like wood one. It does pretty good. Can do handwriting. I mean, there are just so many different things that they've done with images. It's amazing. So you can read that handwriting and translate it there. And so Face API is the one that I played with today. So I wanted to be able to identify people's faces as they walked in the room. And I didn't get to that far, but I started learning how to do it. And it's really cool because you can basically give it a sample of faces, and then you train it. You say, here's 3 images of John. This is what John looks like. This is John. And then you train it for each person. And then it knows, it recognizes who John is after that point. And so to do that, you would, there's documentation on this here. And it's really easy. I just didn't get that far. I only got to the first part of this. But we'll go through that in a second. I just wanted to go through some of these other things real quick. There's this speaker identification API. So like you play audio too, for
Americans are called to enact this promise in our lives.
It can recognize a voice and tell you if it is.
Today, a generation raised in the shadows of the Cold War.
It's pretty amazing. So it can recognize people by their voices. Translator, so you can translate when you're talking. You can translate what you're saying in real time to other languages. I haven't played this one at all, but it's pretty amazing. This is Lewis. So this is what we use for bots. So when you're programming a bot, your bot has to understand natural language. So if you say turn the right light, the right light on, it needs to understand that you mean this light. Or switch all lights to green. Like, it needs to understand the text. So Lewis, they've built this framework that understands language, so you can speak naturally and then tell it what to do certain things. So this is just their dumb demo that does this, but you can train Lewis to understand all sorts of contexts. Like, anything that would be, you could could train it to understand something about Joseph Smith, right, and have a conversation using Lewis about Joseph Smith or about a missionary topic or whatever it is that you're interested in doing, but you'd have to just train that model. So, and then you can create custom language models as well. So you can like, let's say you have a lot of people from a different country. You can train it to accents. You can train. I mean, they've got a ton of stuff out here, and all this stuff is like super cheap and like easily accessible to all of us. So to get started, this is Azure. You have to have an Azure account, and everyone in here who has MSDN has an Azure account plus $150 a month in credit. So you guys can all start. Yeah, if you have that license. So so I've gone ahead and I've created a cognitive service. But I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. So after you sign up for Azure, and then up here, it should tell you how much money you have left. So see, I have $149.99 left. So if you say new, it comes up with this box, and it's got like tons of stuff in here, but you can go down to cognitive services, and then you can tell it what you want to play with. So what you want to learn about. So I did Face API for my little demo. So if you click this, it comes up with this, and you fill this form out. You give it a name. You choose your subscription, where you're at in the pricing tier. So let's just look at that. So there's two pricing tiers right now. There's the free tier. You can only do 20 calls per minute, or you can do a more expensive tier with just 10 calls per second. But if you think about that, that's super cheap. So that's 50 cents per 1,000 calls. Like, you could do a lot of calls. So the one I've set up is on the standard tier. So I'm going to go ahead and not set this new one up because I've already done this. So if I go back to my dashboard, so this is what you get after you've set that up, is this dashboard here. So the important things you need to know from this is you need to know the endpoint, because this is the URL you're going to hit to call the service. And then you also need to know your keys. So you have to have a key, and so don't copy these, or you can call my service, but you need these keys really in your app to do this. So I went ahead and created a quick app to try to demo this, and it looks like my Visual Studio is on the wrong screen. So this app is really stupid, and I wanted to do a lot more, but you get what you get. So, so let's close some of these windows so you can see it. So all the most important stuff is here. So pretty much, I'm just creating a new HTTP client, and in the header, I'm passing the subscription key, which was that key I showed you. You just pass that puppy in, and then you basically, here's the URL that I'm calling. And then you can pass different parameters. So I'm saying, give me the face ID, don't give me any of the landmarks, but I do want the age and gender. Because it can give you, let's just set this to true actually, it can give you all the landmarks on the faces as well. So basically, so I'm going to pass in an image, and it's gonna basically get the bytes for that, and then it's gonna basically just call the web service, just using standard, just a standard REST call. So back from that comes some JSON, and I've created a little object that represents that JSON, right? That was super easy. And I'm just gonna basically deserialize it to that object, and then this is dumb. I'm serializing it back. There's probably an easier way, and then I'm saying format my JSON so I can read it. I want to be able to read it in a text box. This isn't necessary, but this was me doing it in 2 minutes. So as before this presentation this morning, sitting there. So we'll run this app real quick. Maybe if it even starts.
It's building, just be patient. Just using your camera on your tablet.
I can take a picture right now if you want. I took pictures beforehand, but we could do one right now. Okay, let's do one right now. Okay, here's me. Another smile. Cheese. Okay. Whoops. Did you guys not see that? Sorry. Let's do it again. It's hard to not look at the camera. Okay, so 2 pictures. And then we'll pull my app over here, and we'll go open those up. So let's do this frowny face one. Open. And I'll click process. When I click process image, that's when it's going to make that web service call out to get the data for that. So it recognized where my face was. This is like where in the picture it is. Recognize my gender. It says I'm 34 in that picture, which I'm 39, so it's not quite accurate there. And it can send other data back. I thought it would send more back. Based on the file you send it. What's that? Oh yeah, my model didn't have any of that. Okay, that's true. I didn't have any of that. So it probably is sending it back, but it's getting lost when I deserialize it. So, but it can recognize your emotion and like all the different dimensions of your face. Like it tracks like 24 points on your face and it recognizes all that. So, and if you did do a different image,
just put a breakpoint, John, and let's inspect the JSON using the debugger. That we learned about from Larry.
All right.
You want to get before you.
I can just pull up the string, right? In the response content. So response content is here. All right, so there is a face rectangle. There's a face attributes, and then here's all the landmarks. So it tracks like all this stuff. I don't know how to get the motion. Maybe I don't. Maybe there's some other service I have to call to get the motions. What's that? Okay, I probably am not calling the right service, but like it tracks everything, and this is amazing. So what I learned while I was not really preparing for this, even though I should have prepared for it, was is I lost. Oh, maybe I didn't. So in this, let's see. Okay, so it's really cool. You can. Maybe I lost my link to it. That's lame. So pretty much you create these things called face groups, and I had the documentation on my screen, but I lost it. But you create these things called face groups, and you can say, these are all the images of John, and you just train it. There's a REST API you call it that says, okay, here's my images, this is John, train. You train it, and then from then on out, it knows who John is, and you do that for each person. And then from then on out, it can recognize that person. So I think you can combine all these cognitive services, like facial recognition, emotion tracking, speech, text-to-speech, and bot. You can create something that's totally awesome. So anyways, that's everything I have. Thanks.
Okay, so the thing that I wanted to cover is everything else that was presented at Build that the first 4 presenters didn't talk about. So it's going to take 7 hours. Sorry, over some of your meetings. So I'll try to make this pretty short. I only have about 6 slides, but on each slide you can see there's just a ton of stuff. So Satya Nadella, who's the CEO, president of Microsoft, the new Bill Gates, has really opened up Microsoft's focus to cross-platform, cross-OS, cross-device. You write something in CSharp and it can run on everywhere, every device, every operating system, everywhere. And that's really their focus, really opening things up, working with other companies, other platforms, other devices, and really being a lot more open than Microsoft has ever been in the past. So people are getting pretty excited about the way things are going. The one thing that John had talked about a little bit of scary technology we have, so Satya, the first thing he talked about was responsible computing. So now that he's given you this technology, you now have the ability to write some really crazy apps that are maybe scary, maybe infringing on people's freedoms or whatever, but you can do a lot of great things. And so he's asking and calling to the developers and the developer community to use this technology wisely. Other things that were of interest, a lot of the intelligent cloud stuff, they really are calling things, artificial intelligence. John kind of mentioned it's the image or the show or the pretend intelligence, but really the machines are only as smart as the developers. So the more stuff we can take advantage of in our applications, use some of the cognitive services, use some of the other stuff that's available, our apps become a lot smarter and people will trust them. Another big thing was the Roam APIs, the Microsoft Graph. So there's a common set of APIs that you can call from any operating system, any device, and be able to call into the same kinds of things. And so it's very similar regardless of what device you're on, or you write code once and it calls into the same APIs regardless of where it's at. That was pretty cool. A lot of stuff here. There's a cool video about the workplace safety there's a lot more to that than what was shown. Scott Guthrie talked a lot about Azure, and there's a lot of great stuff that they're doing with their cloud representation. So one of the things that got a lot of clapping was people love the Bash shell on Windows. There's now a CLI that you can use on your mobile device. So that was pretty cool to do, all your Azure services, all your management, spinning up VMs, all that kind of stuff, just in a command line on your phone.
I also saw the command line in Azure. Really awesome.
Yep, there is a command line in Azure too. That's pretty cool. So there's a lot more, and PowerShell is not quite there, but is coming. A lot of other stuff. They mentioned Cosmos DB, which is, I guess, evolved from Document DB, and so it's. They showed the demo of it. It was very fast, pretty cool. A lot of stuff you can do there, and you can choose how you want to, what API set you want to use to interact with the database. That was pretty cool. I hadn't seen that before. Containers, a lot going on with containers for security, for access, other kinds of things. You can set properties and things on a container and everything that's in that container. You can talk across containers. A lot of stuff going on there. Continuous delivery, Azure Functions. There's just a ton of stuff. We talked a lot about Azure Stack with the people there. The last one on day one, the last address was from Harry Shim. Was talking a lot about this AI stuff, all the stuff that John kind of talked about. There's just so much going on there worth looking into. There was 458 sessions recorded on Channel 9, and so if you want to see any of the topics that are listed on any of these, there's a whole bunch of information in all the breakouts. And there was so many that they actually didn't even show them all at Build. So there were some that were pre-recorded, and they're available on Channel 9 that even those that attended Build we were not able to see. More about the Project Rome APIs, the .NET Standard 2.0 framework. There's cool stuff about what they're doing with Xamarin. There's a test lab where you can send up your tests, and there's every possible device, every version of the OS running on that device. And it's just thousands of machines that you can send to phones, to tablets, to desktops, to whatever, and you can send your tests to run. So you don't have to buy every possible device and find the bugs on these devices, or repro the bugs on devices when you hear from a customer that, hey, it doesn't work on this version of this app that I have, this device. So Joe Belfiore talked about Story Remix. Alan Pearson was going to present on that. His wife was sick today and he was not able to come, so we passed on that one, but we'll probably have another .NET Engineering Forum in the near future on some of the cool stuff they're doing with photo, with video. I was going to show a soccer clip. You'll have to go watch that yourself. If you go to those, on Channel 9, if you go to the keynote, it has an index of all of the different pieces of it. So if there's something you're interested in, you don't have to watch the whole 3-hour keynote. You can just jump to the thing that you're interested in. Last big thing that they were showing a lot with was they're calling this new term called mixed reality, which encompasses their augmented reality with the HoloLens and the virtual reality. And it was a different experience. We got to play with it quite a bit at the Build conference. There was several different demos they had going on. When you put the HoloLens on, you can still see through it. You can still walk around places and not bump into stuff. It's totally untethered, so you're in this holographic world, but you are also in the real world, and you can kind of mix the two together. So that's augmented reality. When you put the virtual reality headset on, you're totally enclosed. And when they start up the demo, there was some credits at the beginning where it has the title, and then there's a black screen, and then who did it, and the black screen, and also helped by this partner. And then every time the black screen came up, it was just like you were enclosed in this tiny, if you're claustrophobic at all, it was just like a bad experience for virtual reality. But once it starts and you're in the world, then it was pretty cool. But we put them on, put the headphones on, and then we're like, where's the controller? And they just said, put your hands out and put it in your hand. It was just like, this is way different than the HoloLens and being a part of the holographic world and real world together. So very different experiences. However, the augmented reality HoloLens is $3,000. The virtual reality headset is about $300. So depending on what you really want to go for, and there are cases for both of these.
$300 and it works with a $500 PC, not a $2,000 PC.
Yeah. And if you want to go mobile, you put your laptop in your backpack, you plug the virtual reality lenses into that, and then you could be untethered, I suppose, until your battery wears out. So that was pretty cool. There's a lot of stuff going on there. The last thing is just the link. There's last I saw was 458 different sessions. If you're interested in any of the topics that we talked about today, or anything else that Microsoft is doing, they talked about a ton of stuff. The only thing they didn't mention was future of Windows Phone. So I assume there is no future of Windows Phone. They didn't talk about it. So if anybody has any other questions, feel free to come up and talk to any of the presenters afterwards. Is there any questions?
A quick comment, can I make?
Absolutely.
You want to do that?
Sure. Yeah. So we'll get it recorded. Also, is everybody signed on the roll? Pass this around. Anybody else need to get on the roll?
It's your one chance at awesome swag. Right over there. Somebody else. Oh, Keith. So I went to build also. I love new technologies. I love figuring out what's happening in the industry and the world. What I'd love to see, though, from people at the church is how are these technologies going to benefit the work of the Lord, right? So what are we going to do to incorporate some of these newer technologies? I think a lot of times when new input devices or new methods of interacting with technology come along, it's a little bit hard at the beginning to figure out, okay, well, what does that mean, right? It sort of evolves over time, and you think, well, oh, geez, I can think of, well, for augmented reality, I could probably do that in a visitor center or something, right, John? So something like that seems obvious, but less obvious things take a while to jump out at you, you know, and it's kind of like just you got to get used to it and then figure out where it applies. And so over time, I would love for those who are playing with new technologies or using those to come back to this group and share what they're doing specifically as it relates to what they've implemented at work for, you know, building the kingdom. Because that's ultimately the reason why we go to build, why we're in this space. It's not just to kind of the wow factor, but it's really how do I now incorporate that into what we're doing. So as you have those things occur, and that'll happen naturally over time, hopefully, let us know, and let us know how we can maybe showcase that a little bit for others who are perhaps needing to know what you're doing and see how that could be beneficial to them. So, okay, Jim, thanks.
Okay, so if you don't want to stick around for the drawing, you're welcome to leave. I don't have my random number generator. Okay, Rich, you're more random than my program anyway. Pick a number between 1 and 36. If it's your own number, you don't get it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, number 8 is Trevor Hackett. Come on up, grab your prize. Thanks to all of the presenters too. Thank you guys.